Picture a black cube standing in the middle of a busy square. People walk past it every day. Some stop to touch its walls, some barely glance at it. You assume you know what it represents because you have seen it in photographs 1,000 times. But if you traveled back more than 14 centuries before the word Islam ever existed, you would find this same structure standing in the same place. And what you would see inside it would surprise you. You are looking at the Kaaba, but not the Kaaba you think you know. Long before it became the direction Muslims around the world turned to in prayer, the Kaaba was already ancient. According to Islamic tradition, its foundations were not laid by any king or empire. They were laid, some accounts say, by Adam himself, the first human, as the first house of worship on earth. Over generations, the structure fell into ruin, buried by time and forgotten by memory. Then came a rebuilding that changed everything. The early historian Ibn Ishaq, whose biography of the Prophet forms the backbone of nearly all later Islamic historical writing, records the account of Ibrahim, known to much of the world as Abraham, arriving in the valley of Mecca with his son Ismail. There was no city there yet, no markets, no wells, no roads, just rock, sand, and a barren silence that made survival itself an act of faith. Ibrahim and Ismail rebuilt the Kaaba on its original foundations, raising its walls stone by stone with their own hands. One tradition, recorded by the historian Al-Azraqi in his account of Mecca's history, describes a single black stone brought to Ibrahim during construction, a stone unlike any other in the valley, which he set into a corner of the structure. That stone remains there today, worn smooth by millions of hands across centuries. When the building was finished, Ibrahim did something remarkable. He did not simply dedicate it and walk away. He called out, according to the Quranic account, inviting people from every distant place to come and walk around this house. At the time, there was almost no one to hear him. A structure built for the world standing in an empty valley, calling out to travelers who did not yet exist. They came anyway. Over centuries, the trickle of visitors became a flood. And this is where the story takes its first sharp turn, because the very thing that made the Kaaba sacred also made it vulnerable to something Ibrahim never intended. As tribes settled around the valley, and Mecca grew into a trading hub, control over the Kaaba became control over prestige, wealth, and influence. Different clans began bringing their own gods to place within its walls, not to replace the original worship entirely, but to add themselves into it. A god for protection on trade routes, a god for rain, a god for fertility. Over generations, this accumulation grew into something almost unrecognizable from what Ibrahim had built. By the time of the Prophet Muhammad's birth, historical accounts describe the interior and surroundings of the Kaaba as home to roughly 360 idols, one for nearly every day of the year. The most prominent among them was Hubal, a large statue reportedly made of red agate, positioned inside the Kaaba itself, associated with divination and decision-making. Pilgrims still came from across the Arabian Peninsula, still circled the ancient structure, still touched the same black stone Ibrahim had set in its corner. But the meaning had shifted, layered over with centuries of accumulated tradition, until the original purpose was nearly buried beneath it. This is worth sitting with for a moment. The building had not moved. The stones were the same stones. But what people believed it represented had drifted so far from its origin that the very people worshipping there daily could not have told you how it started. The Kaaba's custodianship became one of the most coveted responsibilities in Arabia. The tribe of Quraysh, who controlled Mecca by the 6th century, treated guardianship of the structure as both a sacred duty and a source of tremendous economic power, since pilgrims brought trade and trade brought wealth. But this power invited challenge, and one challenge in particular has been remembered for over 1,400 years. In the year traditionally dated to 570, a governor from Yemen named Abraha commanding an army that reportedly included war elephants, marched toward Mecca with the stated intention of destroying the Kaaba. Abraha had built his own grand cathedral in Yemen and grew frustrated that pilgrims still preferred the ancient shrine in Mecca over his newer structure. His solution was direct: remove the competition entirely. The account preserved in Surah Al-Fil describes what happened next in stark, almost cinematic terms. As Abraha's forces approached, flocks of birds appeared overhead, dropping stones upon the army below. The invasion collapsed. Abraha's forces, elephants included, were devastated before they ever reached the structure they came to destroy. Whatever the precise historical mechanics behind this event, and scholars have long debated theories involving disease, volcanic activity, or genuine catastrophe, the outcome recorded in tradition is unambiguous. The Kaaba survived, and this event became so significant in Arabian memory that the year itself was named after it. Al-Fil, the year of the elephant. The same year, according to Islamic tradition, in which Muhammad was born. A few decades later, the Kaaba faced a different kind of crisis. Not an army, but a flood. Heavy rains damaged the structure so severely that Quraysh decided a full reconstruction was necessary. This rebuilding, which took place when Muhammad was still a young man in his mid-30s, produced one of the most quietly significant moments in his early life, long before he received any revelation. As the walls neared completion, a dispute broke out among the clans of Quraysh over who would have the honor of placing the black stone back into its corner. Tensions rose to the point where conflict seemed inevitable. According to the account recorded by Ibn Ishaq, an elder proposed a solution. Whoever entered the sanctuary next would settle the matter. That person was Muhammad, not yet a prophet, known throughout Mecca simply as a trustworthy young trader. Rather than choosing one clan to receive the honor, he asked for a cloak to be laid on the ground, placed the black stone at its center, and asked a representative from each clan to lift one corner of the cloak together. When the stone reached the wall, Muhammad himself lifted it into place. No single tribe could claim sole credit. No single tribe lost face. Notice what this moment reveals. Years before revelation ever entered his life. A structure built on a shared idea, an ancient calling out to travelers from every distant place, nearly torn apart by tribal pride, was reunited by a solution built on shared effort instead. This is the story of the Kaaba before Islam, as most people understand it. Not a static monument, but a structure constantly caught between its original purpose and the human tendency to reshape sacred things into reflections of tribal identity, power, and pride. Built by a father calling strangers to a shared house, filled, over centuries, with hundreds of separate gods representing hundreds of separate loyalties, nearly destroyed by an army determined to eliminate a rival, nearly fractured again by a dispute over honor, and still standing stone by original stone, waiting for a moment when its original purpose would be restored. Picture that black cube again, standing in the middle of a busy square. Now you know what stood inside it, what marched toward it, and what nearly tore it apart from within, centuries before anyone circling it today ever arrived.